Hey guys, so Jet was asking me the question, and I feel like I've answered it here probably several times before, about how do you remember a technique when you are rolling, right? And that's, for beginners, that's probably one of the biggest problems with how they roll, is that they don't remember anything. And, you know, you're going to go through a phase where you don't remember anything while you roll, and you can mitigate that, right? So if you're running into that problem, the way that you mitigate that is that you're trying to, when you roll, especially if you've been watching this channel and you haven't been drilling, you haven't been trying to do these things in a live roll. You're probably running into that quite a bit where you're like, I don't remember anything when I'm rolling. And so the thing is that, of the 200 some odd videos that I've done here now, you've got, 200 different things that you're trying to keep in your brain, and there's no way that you can do that, guys. When I teach somebody how to play the piano or something along that, and even for myself, right? Like I'm learning cello right now, and I have ADHD, and it's a real pain in the ass sometimes. And both my coach and myself, like we both kind of agree on the wisdom, I guess, that if for example in cello I want to get better at bowing. But I have trouble like doing the imaginary thing which my teacher tells me to do often enough, which is to start to just do the bowing technique without the left hand. And I have trouble thinking about what I'm doing and where I am in the song when I'm doing that. And it doesn't translate into my actual playing. But I will play pizzicato, which means to pluck the string, and I will get my left hand so incredibly good at this one thing that by the time I start adding in the bow, I don't have to think about what this hand is doing and how the song goes. I don't have to think about rhythm. I don't have to think about anything except for what the bow hand is doing. And so, how do we apply this to wrestling, and how do we apply this to grappling? And the thing is like, okay, this time when I'm rolling, and this is my advice, and I think I've said this from the very beginning, is that when you are starting to roll, the thing that you need to be concerned about is not submissions. It's not even transitions, right? It is having some basics of defense, right? So if you're stuck on the bottom, you need to make sure that you don't get submitted, don't lose, right? So we're being in these protective positions with our arms when we're staying mobile with our legs, and that's all you should be thinking about when you're first beginning and you get stuck on the bottom, is don't lose, don't give them any openings for you to submit them. And then if you're on the top, worry about the points that the 3 points that we've always talked about. What is my pressure? What is my connection? How am I rooted into the floor? Okay, those are the 3 things there, right? So how am I defending if I'm in a bad position? How am I maintaining control when I have a top position? And for a while, that should be your primary focus, is just getting to those positions and maintaining them. And then you're going to start adding in transitions, right? So, I do say when you practice, when we do get to side control, I think from the very beginning, we were talking about getting to side control from passing the guard, right? And so that's the one thing that you need to kind of learn how to do right there. Sorry. No, I'm not going to edit that out. But yeah, if you are trying to establish side control, you need to be very, very clean about how you pass the guard and get the side control. So if I were to say, in the beginning, what should you be thinking about for your first time? Okay, defense, because you're going to get in a bad position, and defense is the only thing that matters. You're not going to be able to escape yet. The next thing I would say is potentially starting to learn how to escape, right? And that would be kind of a good start because that's where you're going to get stuck. But I would also say that when you're practicing, start working on your transitions, start working on your guard passes, and getting into those positions. And again, we're talking about, okay, right now we're talking going from passing guard to side control. We're not talking mount, we're not talking knee ride, we're not talking back mount, we're not talking about any of that. We're just talking about passing guard, getting the side control, maintaining it. Then start working on getting to reverse switch base, scarf hold, as just kind of a good start so that you know how to transition and maintain that position on their side through all those different transitions. Then start working on, okay, how do I get to knee ride? How do I get to the mount? And then start learning how to establish those positions. All the while, when you're rolling, you're mostly looking at defense, right? Because we are getting, we're more likely to get stuck in that position unless we're going against people that really don't know what they're doing. And the reason why we're focusing on both establishing and transitioning positions while we are focusing on escaping and defending in those positions is because you're going to get better at defending those positions when you understand how to establish those positions and maintain those positions, right? So the two sides of the same coin. Our priority is to not lose. So we're focusing on the defensive side of it first, while when we are practicing before we roll, we're practicing how to establish those positions, okay? So once we start getting to the point where we're really great at establishing those positions, then we're going to transition into, transitioning from position to position. We try to build up our repertoire so that we've got a good map of the human body and how to get from place to place, right? And then we can start working on, how do we start separating arms? How do we start to expose the neck? I'm not even talking about submissions yet. I'm talking about how do you start to separate? How do you start to create these opportunities for you to start submitting? Now, that's where I'm going to get jumped on by, higher level jiu-jitsu coaches, is because they're probably going to be looking at that and saying, well, you're not going to usually be able to force limbs apart from your body. But at the beginning, you could be starting to think about, okay, how do I start to do that? And how do I start doing that effectively? Because the tendency is that, when you start to pull apart an arm, people know that they don't want that arm away from their body, and they're going to defend that. And they're going to start to muscle that. So if you get to the point where, okay, I get to that thing where I'm in side control position, right? And I take my hand and I get my bicep underneath their elbow just a little bit, right? And I just use my fingers and I go, all right. Now I can start to separate that elbow, and then I can start working from that. I can use my hips, and I can start thinking about ways that I can use my body mass rather than my equally strong to their strong arms to start separating out their arms. So we are picking apart, okay, those little basics there, and my priority as in learning how to separate arms is to do that while maintaining the position that I'm maintaining, okay? So, I'm being more specific than I intended to here, but I think this is actually very valid, and I'm going to keep rolling with it, because the thing is that you are, you're starting to learn how to establish how to begin to set up submissions while maintaining your main priority, which is where people, when they're new, tend to fall apart, is that they are too greedy at trying to get to mount from a guard pass, right? I talked about this recently, like if I am, for example, doing a Toriano pass, so I pass their leg to my hip, and I go here, I can go straight to the mount by doing a little helicopter here, but, there is less connection to that than if I were to do it from a side control position, right? And so that actually might be a less reliable pass than if I really added more pit stops of control before I start going into the mount. So when we are transitioning, when we are setting up submissions, our priority is don't lose the control that you worked so hard to get, okay? So once you get to those positions, how do you start to remember, okay, how do I what submissions are from this position, right? And this goes to something I think I have said a lot here, which is that rather than thinking about the entire encyclopedia of submission wrestling for trying to find submissions in any position, focus on one, okay? So my goal in this match, I'm going to pass guard, I'm going to establish side control, I'm going to transition to a reverse switch base, I'm going to transition to mount, right? And I know which mount transitions I'm going to be working on. I'm keeping it very, very simple here. And once I get to mount, I'm going to set up an armbar. That's it, okay? And you don't even have to think about it that far in advance, okay? I'm going to get to mount, I'm going to set up an armbar from the mount. That's it. That's what you say before to yourself, not to your opponent, before you start your match. Is I'm going to get to mount, I'm going to set up this armbar. And if you don't, that's still your focus on the next one. And between matches, okay, why didn't it work? Why didn't I get there? Okay? So, if I am deciding, this goes into the last video I did, right? That my goal is to get from this on our knees position, and he's taken, I'm here, so he's more likely, if he knows what he's doing, he's going to pull guard, right? He's going to sit down in his butt. So if I'm in my combat base here, what is my main goal here? Well, I need to pass on AD to get to side control so that I can get to mount, so I can get that armbar. Okay, so all I know in my head right now is I'm going to mount and I'm going to get an armbar for mount. So how am I going to get that? Okay, I'm going to unhook this leg, I'm going to pull it into my chest, back, pull him up, glue his shoulders mat, roll, pin his knees together, step over, come into the mount, establish a really clean mount here, right? So it's actually going to be more like this, right? So my hips are on his hips, my feet are together, I'm posted, so I'm rooting to the floor, pressure, connection is my feet. Okay, so from here, I'm going to shift over, or I'm going to put my elbow up by his shoulder, cup his head. Okay, great. So from here, I can slide my knee up under his shoulder. All right, that's great. I can shift over, I can pull up on his tricep here. I can go into an S-mount position, great. You don't necessarily have to, right? We've covered other ways of doing that, right? Slide my hand under, boom, okay. So, I knew two goals. Get to mount, get the armbar. Get to mount, get to the armbar. Keeping it as simple as possible, right? And that's how you're going to remember stuff, okay? And, if you're still feeling like you keep doing this and you're not, and like maybe you keep doing this and you're still not remembering things, like you got that armbar and then you moved on to a triangle from the mount. Okay, or an omoplata from the mount, or a Kimura or Americana. And you're like, well, I don't remember the other submissions. All I remember is the Kimura. Well, then keep going for that armbar. Keep going for the armbar until that sticks in your brain. And so this is kind of advanced thinking for jiu-jitsu in a way, but I think it's advanced because advanced people think this way. Not because you, as a beginning white belt, can't handle this type of thinking. It's just that, you are in the sea of jiu-jitsu, you are drowning in the sea, people are dominating you left and right, and you're not remembering anything. So you're not thinking, okay, how can I make this simple? Well, if you're drowning in the sea, you're overwhelmed by all this encyclopedia of jiu-jitsu that you feel like you must know right now. No, understand that you are a beginner. Understand that you know nothing, okay? And then hone in on the one or two things that you think that you know until you know them, right? And eventually that becomes your game. And that, again, that's kind of your difference between a high-ranking blue belt or purple belt and a beginning white belt, is that, the blue belt has enough knowledge to step back, and they've been drowning in that sea for long enough to be like, okay, every time I put my arms up in the air when I'm drowning, I sink lower into the water. Oh, maybe I shouldn't put my hands up here in the air, right? Okay, my feet are moving chaotically in the water, but if I start to kick them in a controlled manner and make little paddles, okay, I can stick up easier, or I can lay back on my back. Oh, look, that works. I float better, right? And I don't have to work as hard to keep myself there in a safer position in the water. Okay, so if I'm on my back and I start to push and start kicking my feet, oh, I'm doing backstroke, and so those things start to come together. But the thing is that I've been here telling you how to do a backstroke this whole time, and you're still throwing your arms in the air and you're kicking your feet straight down in the water in a chaotic manner, and you're sinking. Okay? So, you don't need to know butterfly today, but the backstroke might be a good place to start. A breaststroke might be a good place to start. Learn the one stroke that you need in order to stop drowning, and then work from there. So I know this is, again, another long-winded video. I apologize. But I hope the point gets across to you that don't try to take on jiu-jitsu as a whole or submission wrestling as a whole, but start thinking about the one thing that you know, the one thing that you can control, and go from there and be good at that one thing, and then start adding on your butterfly strokes, your butterfly kicks, dolphin kick rather, or whatever's going for you. So take off what you can chew, use that, go from there. So that's my advice for now, guys, and I hope this is helpful. Thank you, guys.